This is Manga Dominion K, teaching beyond boundaries.
Summarizing. This is what we do almost every day when we have to summarize an information. Maybe you are relating a story or events to our friends or our relatives. We present that information in a very condensed manner. So for students, summary writing is quintessential because while your teacher or your lecturer at the university is presenting a lesson or a lecture, it is important for you to be able to listen and at the same time jot down important points in a very short or summarized version. In English Paper 1, we have to summarize a paragraph. There are two ways in which we summarize a passage. One, that one of presenting it in a paragraph form, and the second one is presenting it in point form. Today we're going to be looking at how do we summarize in point form. What is it that we look at and what is it that is required of us in order to summarize and condense a huge text into a shorter and summarized version? Let us take a look, friends.
First of all, let's take a look at the mark allocation for summary writing. The total marks for summary is 10 marks and they are distributed in this way. 7 marks for your 7 points. If you mention all the 7 points, you're going to get 7 marks. And the remaining 3 marks is for language. In other words, if you are able to write the points in your own words as far as possible, and there are no errors or no flaws or mistakes in your language, you're gonna get 3 marks. So our example for today is taken from the Department of Basic Education February-March exam 2018, English First Additional Language. Now, friends, it is important to first read your summary or your passage. Read your passage. Section B, Summary. Question 2, Listening is an important skill. Read text C below and list 7 points on how to be a good listener. Take note on those words, how to be a good listener. In other words, your points for inclusion in your summary must be on how to be a good listener. The instructions are as follows. Your summary must be written in point form. List 7 points in full sentences using no more than 70 words. 3. Number your sentences from 1 to 7. Write only 1 point per sentence. Now that is very important. Make sure that per sentence there is 1 point. Don't put them together because your points will fall short. Number 5, use your own words as far as possible. Number 6, indicate the total number of words you have used in brackets at the end of your summary. In other words, you need to write all your 7 points and then start counting them, and then at the end of your summary, indicate how many words you have used or you have written, and then write that number or the total number of words within brackets. Let's take a look at the text. Text C. The passage reads as follows. The title is Listening. Now you need to understand that you do not have to look for the points having not read your text throughout. You've got to read it once or even twice. Depending on the time that you have, you may even read it 3 times. But read your text first throughout and understand it and grasp the idea so that you are able to identify those points which should not be included in your summary. Let us read the passage. The title is Listening. People's evaluation of their listening ability is much like their assessment of their driving skills. They think they are above average. Good listening is much more than being silent when the other person talks. Sitting there silently nodding does not provide evidence that a person is listening. Asking a good question tells the speaker that the listener has not only heard what was said, but also understood it well enough to want additional information. Paragraph 3. Good listening is characterized by the creation of a safe environment in which issues and differences could be discussed openly. Good listeners may challenge assumptions and disagree, but the person being listened to feels the listener is trying to help, not wanting to win an argument. Good listeners never try to hijack the conversation so that they or their issues become the subject of discussion. Paragraph 3. Good listening includes some feedback provided in a way others would accept, and that opens up alternative paths to consider. Many people think that a good listener is like a sponge that accurately absorbs whatever the other person is saying. However, a good listener makes the speaker feel better by not merely passively absorbing, but by being actively involved. The last paragraph. A good listener clears away distractions like phones and laptops, focusing attention on the other person. Appropriate eye contact is made to show attentive listening. Now remember that when we summarize, we do not include examples or general information or an introduction to the point, to the actual facts, but we only pick up the facts that are answering the question. And our question today is how to be a good listener. In other words, as we read this text, we want to find something that tells me or that tells you how to be a good listener. In other words, what must I do in order to be a good listener? Therefore, automatically, all other information which is not answering this question will fall out. I'm only going to look for some sentences or some parts in this passage which tells me how to be a good listener. Let's take a closer look at the first one. People's evaluation of their listening ability is much like their assessment of their driving skills. They think they are above average. Ask yourself, is there anything in this paragraph, on this introduction, that tells me how to be a good listener? No, there is none. Remember, friends, that the most important instruction is that one which tells you what points are you to summarize. In this case, we are summarizing the point, how to be a good listener. So in that sentence or in that introduction, there is nothing that tells me how to be a good listener. Therefore, we are not going to include, we're not going to take anything from that introduction. Now let's take a look at the second paragraph. Good listening is much more than listening silent when the other person talks. Sitting there silently nodding does not provide evidence that a person is listening. Now, if you take a closer look at these sentences, there is nothing that we are told directly that you need to do this, but what we find there is an indication that if we sit silently, that is not good while another person is talking. Being silently throughout the conversation is not good. Now, what is it that we must do? Let us read the next line. It reads as follows. Asking a good question tells the speaker that the listener has not only heard what was said, but also understood it well enough to want additional information. That's the point. It begins by giving us what to do. It says, asking a good question. In other words, we need to ask good questions. We need to ask relevant questions. So I may write my point here when I am summarizing this point in this way. You must ask relevant questions to show you are listening. Or one must ask relevant questions, or one must ask good questions in order to show they are listening, or in order to show understanding. Now, if we take a closer look at that point, I may have to leave out the last part. I may just simply say, one must ask relevant questions in order to show their understanding, and leave out that part, the last part of that sentence, because I've got the most important one. Then paragraph 3. Good listening is characterized by the creation of a safe environment in which issues and differences could be discussed openly. There's a point just right there. Good listening is characterized by the creation of a safe environment. Therefore, I can put this way in this sentence in this way. Create a safe environment, or one has to create a safe environment. Full stop. Here's another point. Good listeners may challenge assumptions and disagree, but the person being listened to feels the listener is trying to help, not wanting to win an argument. That's the point. So I may put that point in this way. You need to question assumptions and raise your views politely, or question assumptions and raise different views politely. So the point is about being polite. The last sentence in the second paragraph. Good listeners never try to hijack the conversation so that they or their issues become the subject of discussion. That's a point right there. I may write this point in my own version. Avoid taking over a conversation, or avoid taking over a conversation by deviating from the current subject matter, or do not take over a conversation by deviating from the current subject matter or from the current conversation. Try by all means to change some words that you can still change and rewrite them in your own words. But even if there are 2 new words or 3, let's move on to the fourth paragraph. Good listening includes some feedback provided in a way others would accept, and that opens up alternative paths to consider. There's a point right there, and that is our 5th point. Point number 5, or fact number 5. Our point can be written in this way. Give acceptable feedback, or one must give acceptable feedback. Let's read further. Many people think that a good listener is like a sponge that accurately absorbs whatever the other person is saying. That is, now this point is an additional point. In other words, it's an explanation of the point of fact that has been mentioned in the first part of that paragraph. Let's read further. However, a good listener makes the speaker feel better by not merely passively absorbing, but by being actively involved. So that is point number 6. Be actively involved, or one must be actively involved in the conversation. That is point number 6. Let's read now our last paragraph. A good listener clears away distractions like phones and laptops, focusing attention on the other person. Appropriate eye contact is made to show attentive listening. Now, you'll notice here that the point is about clearing away distractions like phones and laptops, focusing attention on the other person. Now, but the main point is about to clear away distractions. So you may put this point in this way. One must put away distractions, or put away any item that will distract you. If you take a look at this paragraph, there are examples that are written here. The phones and laptops. Now these are just examples, so you may not have to include them in your point. In my point, I just simply said, put away any item. Now the phrase any item includes the phones, the laptops, or anything that might cause distraction. So I've rewritten this point now in my own way, or in my own words. Or you may put it in this way: focus undivided attention on the speaker, or give an undivided attention on the speaker, or just simply focus on the speaker. That is point number 7. The last part is appropriate eye contact is made to show attentive listening. There's a point there about eye contact. The point can be written this way: make proper eye contact with the speaker. Now, after writing all my points, now I'm going to count all the words that I have written and indicate in brackets that total number of words. Maybe you ask me, what if I have exceeded 70 words? Now, since I've exceeded the number of words by 3 words, I need to shorten any point or any fact among these 7. So let me revisit the first one. It reads as follows: you must ask relevant questions to show understanding. I may write it in this way: ask relevant questions to show understanding. Already I have left out 2 words. Which are those 2 words? You must. So now, in other words, if I had initially 73 words, by taking these out, you must, already now I have 71 words. Now let's see which other point I can still shorten. Let's take a look at the second point. One has to create a safe environment. We can still shorten this point in this way: create a safe environment. Now it is an imperative, now it is an instruction, it is an order. It begins with create. That's an instruction, that's an imperative. I have already left out 3 words. One has 2. So you see, I have shortened my summary by taking out 5 words. You must from the first one, and one has to on the second one. So how many words do I have now? I now have 68 words. After making these changes in your first draft of your summary, don't forget to cancel it out and indicate that this was your first draft. Rewrite your summary now. That is going to be your final draft. Now let us see if we've been able to meet all the requirements of this question. Number 1, we have numbered our points 1 up to 7. And again, we have written our points in our own words as far as possible. We've been able also to write 1 fact per sentence. And again, which is the most important, again, we've been able to count the number of words, and then we've indicated just down there at the bottom of our summary how many words we have included. Don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel and tell your friends about this channel. Thank you. Till next time.